A stunning confession to a shocking crime. But we're learning about the man police say called 911 to confess to killing 4 of his own children.
Today is another WRAL weather alert day. How long showers will be with us tonight and which countries Hurricane Melissa will take aim at next.
The battle for food benefits is heating up as money runs out and North Carolina joins other states to sue the Trump administration for more emergency funding. Why the USDA says this isn't the emergency that money is for. We're going to get to the weather and that hurricane in a moment, but first we have to start with that unthinkable story in Zebulon. 4 children found dead, their father telling a 911 operator that he killed them.
It's just awful. 3 of them were his biological children, a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old. The 4th was his 18-year-old stepchild. The suspect, Wellington Dickens III, appeared in court this afternoon. He faces 4 counts of murder and possibly the death penalty.
Investigators are telling us that the 4 children were found in the trunk of Dickens' car. They say all 4 have likely been dead for months, since May 1st, possibly. A 5th child, a 3-year-old, was found alive at the house. After hours of investigation, authorities then towing away the car that you see from the home. This is where it happened. This is where the investigation is taking place, Springtooth Drive. This is on the Johnston County side of Zebulon.
Tonight we are hearing from people who lived nearby. WRAL's Eric Miller is live in Zebulon tonight. Eric, neighbors understandably have been shocked by this.
Absolutely, Ashley. Everyone we've spoken with in this neighborhood has been absolutely at a loss for words, both for what they've seen play out here and for the crimes that Dickens is accused of committing. Now, just in the last 10 minutes, we spoke to one of Dickens' immediate next-door neighbors. She told us she last saw Dickens about a month ago with his 3-year-old child. She told us at the time Dickens didn't seem to be all there. He wasn't really present, and as soon as he saw her, he immediately sent that child inside. She also told us that recently her son had smelled something incredibly strong coming from this home, strong enough that he nearly threw up, and that Dickens had recently begun keeping his garage door cracked open ever so slightly regularly. Now, here tonight, if you've been following this story all day, you can see a much quieter scene, but still an active one as this investigation continues. After a brief appearance in court by Wellington Dickens, tonight the long search for answers continues. Johnston County Sheriff's deputies, investigators from the SBI, and more pouring over this house, car, and backyard.
But of course, you never know what's going on in someone's home.
The crime leaving neighbors shaken.
You never know the people you're living nearby. I just feel bad for the kids and the family.
According to the Johnston County Sheriff's Office, Dickens himself called 911 and confessed to the killings. Neighbors remembered him as someone who kept to himself, seemed quiet, and was rarely seen. Now, Dickens will be back in court in Johnston County again tomorrow. That's because of the timing of some of the murder charges when those came down today.
The details of this are just so disturbing, Eric, and we have been spending all day looking into Dickens' past. We know he faced allegations of child abuse in 2016. Tell us a bit about that case.
Yeah, Ashley, allegations in both 2015 in Raleigh and then again in 2016 in Wake County. Those 2016 allegations actually came out of a report from Wake Med. This was in 2016. Wake Med said at the time one of Dickens' children was suffering essentially from jaundice, a potentially life-threatening condition for this child, something that could have left this child with significant brain damage. Dickens and his wife took that child away from the hospital against the recommendation of doctors, also refused to bring that child back in for a proper checkup to make sure that child was going to be okay. This eventually resulted in Dickens being briefly jailed. Dickens did push back on these allegations here, even took Wake Med, Wake County, other parties to court over all of this as well. That suit, though, was eventually dismissed for being frivolous. Now, again, this is still an active investigation here tonight. You see that crime scene tape still up around this home. We'll, of course, be following this case very closely. Let you know what we find out here.
Yeah, please do, Eric. Thank you. So we did want to know a little bit more about Dickens and any criminal history that he may have. Dickens does have another misdemeanor child abuse charge, this one in 2015. 1 month after he got married, but the case was dismissed because the alleged victim didn't show up in court. Most of the charges we found against him involved traffic tickets. We also found Dickens' father died in a car crash in 2023, and then a year later, his wife died in 2024. Her obituary only says she died suddenly at home. I spoke with Dickens' great uncle this afternoon. He tells me Dickens served in Iraq and struggled mentally ever since.
We know he had a little problem.
What kind of problem?
He was, like I said, he was in the service and he had problem ever since he came back, I think.
So WRAL has been checking with local social service agencies to see if they had any involvement with the family. Those records are confidential, but agencies can release them after a child dies on their watch.
Moving now to the other big story tonight, Hurricane Melissa, as we take a live look at Jamaica. A little tough to see, obviously, at this hour, the sun having set, but you can see how the camera is moving a bit, shaking slightly from the wind. Melissa is now sitting at a Category 4. That is 145 mile per hour winds. We know the storm is responsible for at least 7 deaths at this point across Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. Cuba appears to be next in the storm's path. There's some satellite views of Melissa as well. On the left side of your screen there on the right is the radar here in North Carolina. It's been 2 full days of rain, and it's going to stick around for just a bit longer. 2 weather stories means we have 2 meteorologists with us tonight. Meteorologists Mike Bays and Kat Campbell is going to be talking about local rain, but we want to start with Mike and the tropics and the latest on this devastating storm, Mike.
Dan, seeing that view out of Kingston, of the harbor there, seeing the lights on, that makes me feel good that at least part of the island has been spared. Now, the center of circulation made landfall at New Hope this afternoon around 1 o'clock and moved over to the island. Now the center has emerged over the waters. Not really expected to strengthen because vertical wind shear will now take over. Notice the storm is starting to elongate a bit, noticing that there is a little bit of shear taking place. And those strongest hurricane force winds were near the eye wall, which didn't come near Kingston and the eastern part of the island, but a lot of the nation there did see some very heavy rainfall. This is the latest that we have on the storm. Top winds at 145. It'll remain Category 4 until it makes landfall in Cuba later on during the night tonight and during the day tomorrow. 140 mile per hour wind by 2 a.m. By tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, 115 mile per hour winds. It'll move over the Bahamas and then rapidly move toward the northeast. It's actually going to interact with our next weather maker, which is right now over the lower Mississippi Valley. It'll come along, give it a kick. It'll accelerate to the northeast. Hurricane watch is in effect for Bermuda, with top winds there expected around 100 miles per hour. Closer to home, low pressure impacting our weather as well, Kat.
Yes, it is. It's having a bigger impact on the coast where more homes fell in the Outer Banks today. But I want to focus in on what we are seeing locally. We had a steady rain again through much of the day, and that's pushing to the east now. It's closer to the coastal plain and the coast. Not so steady. It's more patchy light rain or drizzle out there for the remainder of tonight. So we are expecting the rain to really break up, and that trend will continue. Future radar showing that over the next 2 hours there. But our next weather maker is already lining up to the west, and this gets here tomorrow night. So let's take a look at the details on our next weather maker. The best chance for rain for it will come between midnight and then 9 a.m. Thursday. So it's kind of overnight, but out ahead of it, a little patchy light rain and drizzle during the day tomorrow. Some isolated thunder possible, but no severe weather is expected. And we're looking at moderate rainfall in terms of the intensity. We need some more rain still to help with this drought, and we'll have a closer look at that coming up, Dan.
All right, thank you, Kat. And remember, a reminder for you at home that you can download the new WRAL weather app, get updates on Hurricane Melissa and any rain here in our area. It's becoming more and more dangerous to serve publicly. That is our quote of the day, and it's coming from Durham Mayor Leonardo Williams. He's talking about some social media posts, ones like this one you're seeing behind me here, a wanted poster that was posted online with faces of some of the elected officials in Durham, including Mayor Williams and some others. They accuse the officials of, quote, social murder. You see, Election Day in Durham is 1 week away, and these posts target the incumbents, pushing to vote them out of office. We all know election ads and posts can get pretty nasty from time to time, but as WRAL's Monica Casey reports, the officials targeted here believe that this rhetoric has gone too far.
This is Durham Mayor Pro Tem Mark Anthony Middleton's third election, and he says it's been the most toxic by far, with his face plastered on a wanted poster.
It was horrifying. It was shocking. It was hurtful as a human being, as a black man, knowing all of the tropes about black male criminality. It stirred some things in me in a very visceral and deep way.
I spoke with the woman behind those posters and social media posts, Ashley Robbins. She manages a community food pantry, and she ran for office in the most recent primary.
I wasn't calling for anybody to be harmed. On the contrary, I was pointing out how the things that they sponsor and support actually cause harm to other people.
Robbins says her mention of a guillotine in this post is a metaphor.
Would you do anything differently?
Absolutely not. I would not do anything differently. I didn't call for anyone to be harmed. I'm pointing out that y'all are harming people.
Durham Mayor Leonardo Williams was also on a wanted poster. He sent me a statement that said, in part, quote, "It's becoming more and more dangerous to serve publicly. If leaders and the general community cannot denounce this behavior, we cannot say we love and protect this community."
Do you feel like that kind of rhetoric is dangerous?
It absolutely is dangerous. But again, it's dangerous not for 98% of the people who ingest it. It's that group of folk out there who don't know where the line is or who are easily provoked.
In Durham, Monica Casey, WRAL News.
The government shutdown means money for food stamps could be gone by Saturday.
Here's the thing, the feds have emergency money, but won't use it for this. Why not? North Carolina's Attorney General isn't taking no for an answer, so he is suing the Trump administration. What he's asking for and what other states are doing about this problem. That's after the break. Stay with us.
We are 1 week away now from tying the record for longest government shutdown, which was 35 days. But it's actually the 32-day mark that's a lot more important. This Saturday, funding for SNAP for food stamps will run out. Gone. 40 million nationwide use this benefit. About 1.5 million right here in North Carolina rely on it. The USDA has billions of dollars, we should say, in a contingency fund, but they won't use it. And now North Carolina is filing a lawsuit. Five on Your Side has been following this story from the beginning, so I spoke to WRAL's Keely Arthur about it. So, Keely, let's get started with this lawsuit and what it says. What is the Attorney General and all these Attorney Generals coming together to say?
Right. So 25 states, including North Carolina, suing the Trump administration, the USDA, and the Management and Budget Office, basically saying you have emergency funds, $6 billion worth of emergency funds. Please let us use that to pay for SNAP benefits. They're also saying that they want to be reimbursed if they use state funding. So if North Carolina had to use its own funding to keep people afloat in November, they want then the federal government, once the government's back open, to be able to reimburse them.
Makes sense. Emergency fund. Here we are in an emergency. What is the USDA saying? Why aren't they releasing this money?
Well, they're saying it's essentially not an emergency fund, or it's not the type of emergency that would be covered under this type of funding. They cited things like weather disasters, for tornadoes, for example, as a way to be able to use that type of money, but they're saying they can't do that in regards to the SNAP benefits. But that's kind of a reversal. In the end of September, when we knew this was all going to happen, the USDA was on the record saying that they had these emergency reserves. Now they're saying, oh, sorry, we can't use them for this.
So some states have started to think of creative ideas, ways to fill in the gaps if this money just isn't there. everywhere. Is North Carolina setting some type of plan in place to make sure that families can get the food they need?
So I've been speaking with the State Department of Health about this for weeks. And every time I ask them, are there contingency plans? Is the state going to tap into their funding? They always say, we need federal funding to get SNAP up and running. So from the sound of it, the state hasn't figured anything out contingency plan wise, but we're asking those questions because places like Virginia, our neighbors to the north, have done that. They're using state funding, in the governor's words, Commonwealth funding, to keep SNAP afloat for Virginians.
So what do people in our state, what are we going to do? You know, I was thinking about the military folks in our area. Good news for them today. Vice President J.D. Vance saying that the people in the military will get paid despite the shutdown continuing. But we've also done so many stories on how people in the military community also heavily, some of them rely on these SNAP benefits. So get a bit of good news, but then a bit of bad news. What are these families, military or otherwise, going to do if they don't have access to that benefit?
Yeah, and I mean, it was a little personal. My husband, as you know, Dan, is in the military, and we were wondering if he was going to get paid. So it's been difficult, and we know that so many military families, just me speaking to friends that we have, are struggling because of this. You know, at this point, they're going to have to let something else fall by the wayside. So not paying phone bills, not having the internet, other things like that. So it's going to create a snowball effect for families that are already, as we know, struggling financially in North Carolina.
And so many of them, I imagine, will be turning to food banks. But we've been hearing from them as well, saying that, you know, food banks are amazing, what they do, the work that they do. But are they equipped to handle this type of influx and need so quickly?
Yeah, food banks sent out letters of support for this lawsuit saying, yes, we need you to tap into that $6 billion of emergency reserves because we cannot sustain feeding all those people. It's 1.4 million people a month in North Carolina rely on these benefits, thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids. So food banks, they are ready to help. They always have been, but they can't sustain this.
All right. Keely, thank you.
A huge story. I want to give you another live look, the satellite view. This is the satellite view of Hurricane Melissa, Category 4 now storm moving toward Cuba. This isn't the only storm on our radar tonight, though. We've got two meteorologists in the WRAL Severe Weather Center for you. Kat is covering the rain in our area. Want to start with you, Mike, and this hurricane.
Yes, and it has been a monster for the western part of Jamaica. In fact, the entire nation has been inundated with rain, the storm surge. Now the worst of the winds are over. It has moved out of Jamaica, at least the center of circulation, now taking aim on Cuba. That will move on shore later tonight and early tomorrow morning. And of course, Elizabeth will be here starting tomorrow morning at 4:30. She'll have the 5 o'clock advisory letting you know where the storm is and where it's headed. I'll have the new update coming up tonight at 11 o'clock here on WRAL. Rainfall potential, there is the southwestern part of Cuba. Our pixel query shows about
One last thing before we go. Have you noticed all the construction going on at the North Carolina Art Museum?
Well, it turns out, you guessed it, it's another art installation that's on the way, which makes sense. It is the Art Museum Park, after all, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a big wooden looping bench. It is called Please Be Seated.
These are renderings of what it'll look like when it's done. And as you can see, yes, you can sit on the art. I love some good functional art. The artist is Paul Coxidge. Most of his work is overseas in China and the UK. He even has a version of Please Be Seated in London. No word yet on when the version in Raleigh will be completed.
First of all, I already love that area over there so much. This is going to be a great addition.
It will be.
Can't wait to see it. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50 and back here at 11 o'clock on WRAL. Have a good night.